What's going on, guys? Seiko from Revolution here with Constant Kwong in the Revolution Watch Bar.
Yes.
And we wanted to talk about watches that we love that most people have kind of overlooked.
Yes, that's right.
I think the thing that's interesting is we have now clearly exited the hype era.
Yes, that's right.
It's so much so that I think we can comfortably say that hype is dead. In fact, let's have a moment of silence for hype. And we can say that like everyone who's just like blindly following the prevailing trends for specific types of watches, I think that has died down very significantly.
Yeah,
I think in its place it's really interesting because we have an inflection point, and during this period, anyone can actually do anything. You can wear anything. You can wear a woman's watch, as we've seen a lot of celebrities do.
I do as well. So some women's watches.
Which women's watch do you wear?
Some Piaget, some APs that are made for ladies, but I have a small wrist. So
how do you feel about the whole trend about dudes wearing Van Cleef & Arpels Alhambra bracelets?
I mean, if it looks good and you're dressed for it, I think the accessories can help. I know you're an accessories guy, so it does help to flare up your outfit.
Okay, I will say I love Van Cleef & Arpels. I love the Alhambra. I'm not sure about the trend with the Alhambra on dudes' wrists. I'm also not sure about the pearls. I noticed like a lot of rappers.
No, I'm not a big pearl guy. But
I don't know. I'm not sure. But I think that's the wonderful thing about today is that you can do whatever the hell you want.
Fashion, man. Fashion can be anything, right?
You have to say it with a Singaporean accent. Fashion ma.
Fashion ma.
I think we're at an inflection period where anyone can do anything, and I think that's a wonderful thing about it. I think what has risen up in its place is interesting shapes. Right?
Yes, that's right.
So we see a renewed interest in stylized lugs, and I think we have some really nice examples of that, in particular with like Thomas Fleming.
Yes.
We have a renewed interest in kind of funky, amorphic type shapes, asymmetric shapes. We have clearly seen the trend of everyone jumping on the bandwagon of small watches.
Yes, that's right.
So much so that I actually think it's kind of like it reflects the trend for big watches, and that everyone's trying to go smaller and smaller and smaller. At some point it'll be like, hey, I found a watch that's the size of a grain of rice, and it'll be like, oh, that's the perfect size, bro. That's kind of the equivalent of like the 57mm watch of like 10 years ago.
Oh
right?
my God.
But that having been said, there's going to be a sweet spot, and I think that's the classical sweet spot between 34 and 38mm for a men's dress watch, and I would say probably between 38 and 40mm for a sports watch, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, I would spread that up to about 41.
Yeah, and of course there's exceptions to that rule because, for example, the Rolex Titanium Yachtmaster is 42mm, and I think it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
That brings me to my point. I think we are now in a period where I am happy to accept watches of any size, any shape, as long as there's an underlying sense of authenticity there, right?
Okay.
So what I've seen now is that everyone has now decided that they're in love with these small dress watches. However, I would like to talk about a brand that is not in that trend, right? And that's Officine Panerai,
yes,
right? Which is one of my favorite brands. And I've actually gone into my watch safe and started pulling out all of my old Panerais and start wearing them again because they feel so perfect on the wrist. And I love the fact that actually when you wear a Panerai today, people are like, oh, but that's not maybe the trendiest watch in the world. That's exactly why I like it. And not only do I like that, there's some amazing buying opportunities for older, especially early series Panerais. And what series do I mean specifically? Well, I love the A series of Panerais, which were introduced in 1998, which represent the first year of the Richemont Group's ownership of Panerai.
Wow, that's almost 30 years ago, man.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit. So preceding that, in the years before 1998, those watches were made, interestingly, all the civilian watches were made at Montre-Valgine, right? And who is Montre-Valgine? Well, it's Dominique Guenat. And who's Dominique Guenat? He's Richard Mille's partner. So actually, that guy made all of those pre-Vendôme Panerais in his établisseur, everything from the 5218, 201A, all the slide techs, all of that kind of stuff as well, right? So yeah, he was responsible for making those watches. And those watches today are as beautiful as they are when they first launched. Yes. But I love the first series of the Richemont Group watches because they have great Richemont backed quality as well, right? In 1998, Panerai is launched at the Salon International de la Haute Horlogerie, right?
Or known as SIHH.
Or otherwise known as SIHH. Let me say that again. Salon International de la Haute Horlogerie.
Wow.
No, because I know that people like to kind of use French terms. It's very popular with the influencers today. Fashion ma.
Yes.
Fashion. When they launched the brand, they created a series of watches inspired by Panerai's past, including the legendary PAM 21 Radomir in a platinum case, using the new old stock Rolex movements that they found at the manufacturer of them. And with those 60 watches, had recouped the entire cost of their investment in Panerai, which was amazing. But they created a bunch of other watches in that first year in 1998, and this was one of them. And this is the PAM 27. It is a Panerai that is actually kind of really weird for a Panerai because it has a central seconds hand.
Okay.
Right? It has a date window with a loop, and it has a power reserve indicator.
Right? 6 o'clock. yeah.
at 6 o'clock. And so what is this watch? Well, it's an amalgam of a bunch of weird kind of like features that you don't expect on a military watch.
Yeah.
And yet from the moment I saw it, I fell in love with it.
Okay.
Like absolutely in love with it. One of the things I love best was the power reserve indicator and how it had this arrow-shaped indicator, which was really cool looking. And then on top of that, of course, you have a central seconds hand, which makes no sense on a Panerai, although it makes a lot of sense on a military watch. Can we just pause for a second to say that I find it funny that Panerai is the only military watch in the world that did not have minute markers, but had 5-minute markers. It was kind of like, hey, Giuseppe, we're going to start the invasion in about the 5 minutes, you know? But anyway, I fell in love with this watch and I was determined to one day own it. Now, the very first luxury watch that I purchased for myself in my journey as a watch journalist was the PAM 61.
Yes.
It was a titanium model with a tobacco colored dial with a seconds hand at 9 o'clock, and I love this watch so much. In fact, I still love this watch. The watch I really wanted was the PAM 36, which was a titanium watch that had the same colored dial but said Marina Militare on the dial, and then also the PAM 40, which was like a stealth launch titanium model that no one ever talked about, like the origins of that watch. But anyway, those two were the first two titanium watches. But the third one was the PAM 61, and I wore that watch everywhere. I love that watch. And on the wrist, it was perfect. You know, the cool thing about the PAM 61 was the first person I ever saw wearing that watch was a woman. And
really?
It looked amazing for a 44mm Panerai to be worn by a woman, right?
Interesting.
So anyway, finally I had the opportunity to buy a PAM 27 a couple of years ago. You know, the really cool thing was that, so when those watches got hot during the Panerai craze at one point, I think they went up to like 20, 25,000 US dollars in terms of secondary value. Then this one I bought for significantly less in the last couple of years because those early Panerais kind of became less exciting to collectors for whatever reason, right? Probably because everyone's focused a lot more on smaller watches or specific types of watches, right? Integrated bracelet watches or what have you. And to me, this was an amazing buying opportunity. I purchased this watch for around 3,000 US dollars.
Wow.
And the amazing thing about this watch is that when I look on the case back, you see that it is number 2 out of 500, right? Which means it's the second watch ever made for the PAM 27. Amazing. And it is something that I have put back on my wrist, and it's perfect, man. Like in terms of proportion, in terms of size, in terms of visibility, in terms of everything, it is awesome. And it has like enabled me to, not that I ever fell out of love with Panerai, but to rediscover how much I love Panerai. And so that's the thing also, is it just goes to show you that like if you look at things that not everyone is chasing, or maybe everyone has shifted away from, you can find incredible values, right?
Yes.
Like these watches are still, like a PAM 27, you can still get between 3 and 5 to 6,000 US dollars. Right, which which is significantly down from what they were at the very top of the market. And these watches are just great on the wrist. And that's what I mean also, it's like, I love Panerai when Panerai is just Panerai, right? Which is 44mm, you know, it's a military watch.
Yes.
It's big on the wrist, but it feels balanced, it feels perfect, and it feels purposeful, right? There's a raison d'être, another French term, right? So, okay, Constant, we talked about my choice, a watch that is largely overlooked, and a watch that you can buy for, not too much money today and feels great on the wrist. What do you have on?
So now watches is something that is so known now, you know, and everybody gravitates to the mechanical watches, you know. But what I want to bring to the table is actually the Grand Seiko 9F quartz watches. Right, so what I have here is a SBGV 245, which was only made for maximum of 3 years in production, 2017 to about 2019, and then they record all of them back to the Ginza Tokyo boutique. Yeah, so I got this very early in 2019 from Taiwan. From a,
Why did they record them all back?
I think they just want to make this color a boutique exclusive instead. So they distribute it around all of the Seiko's GS salons over the world. At April of 2019, I remember they recorded it all back to Ginza Tokyo. So I got the final one in Taiwan. So what's amazing about these pieces are, Grand Seikos are very, I think, quite appreciated now, you know, because of craftsmanship and everything else, you know, mirror polish, you know, you've got a Zaratsu finishing, everything amazing about this. The Grand Seiko is there. And you can get all of this in a, I would say, less than 4,000 Sing dollars kind of package. You don't have a mechanical movement, yes, but the 9F quartz movement is actually an amazing movement. It is finished like a Grand Seiko movement, even though it's quartz, but it is accurate to plus 10, minus 10 seconds a year.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is the base for Grand Seiko in terms of quartz. They of course have the super quartz, but this is the normal quartz version, the 9F, the original one, comes with plus 10 minus 10 seconds a year. So I use this watch to set all of my other mechanical watches.
So this is your atomic clock.
This is my atomic clock.
I love
and
that, dude.
watches like this, right? I mean, this is of course the rarer variant with the gray brush dial, but you can have other SBGV series within the same series that have different colors or different limited editions that is in the, I would say, in the market for a lot less than retail. You can get one for what, 3,000 plus thing, and you're getting a lot of value in a purchase like this. And to be honest, I own many mechanical watches, and in different price category, but I wear this watch a lot, to be honest. I wear this when I'm traveling, I wear this when I'm, just when I want to wear a watch, man. I just put it on, I don't need to think about it, I don't need to set it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And one thing I gotta say is it doesn't need a special battery. You can just use and just go to any of your watchmakers or watch technician to change the battery once the battery is up, and a normal battery will do. And it will last you for 5 years.
You mentioned something also that's really interesting. So both of these watches cost about the same price as well. I'm about to go on a trip to Italy, and I'm thinking about what watch am I going to wear as my kind of like daily watch, right? Europe being what it is in terms of like safety, you're kind of like not so comfortable wearing something that's too high of a price point, or maybe too flashy as well, right? So I'm probably going to bring this because it's like at the end of the day, it's a watch that I love, feels great on the wrist, like reminds me of so many of the stories of my life and kind of like why I love watches to begin with. It's iconic, if I can use that term, because I know a lot of people think it's overused. And at the same time, it's not going to cause any anxiety for me because it's not like I'm wearing something that's, like super expensive or that's going to draw too much attention, right? Would you say the same thing's true about that watch?
I kind of disagree for yours, because Panerai is quite known though. To be honest, I feel that quite known, and this piece in particular is 200 or 500, man. I don't know whether in any case.
All right, so if you see me wearing this watch, I'm asking you right now, please do not rob me, right? It is a 2 out of 500, and therefore it has a lot of sentimental value for me.
It is. Yes, you're right. This piece itself does kind of fly under the radar a little bit, but nowadays, to be honest, I don't recommend wearing any nice shiny watches in Europe, But compared to many other watches that I have, yes, this one does feel a bit more subtle.
Okay. Well, that's it, guys. I think the great thing about where we are right now in terms of watch taste is you can wear whatever you want.
Yes.
And as long as you genuinely love it, you're cool. What I would say that you look for is watches that are a genuine expression of who they are.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
I think that when brands deviate too far from what their original purpose was, sometimes you're like, I don't know. So like for me, a Cartier should be a beautiful dress-shaped watch in a smaller size, right? And a Panerai should be at least 44 mm in terms of diameter and be this purposeful military watch on your wrist. How do you feel about yours?
Well, to me, it's all about value proposition, value for money.
It looks great though, to be honest.
It is great. I love it. It's fantastic, and there's so much. I mean, that's the thing about watches. Right? When I wear this watch, it's normally people do not really ask about it. But people that knows it, they're like, wow, is that a Grand Seiko? This is a bit like a if you know kind of watch.
Right.
But end of the day, it's like what you said. Wear what you like.
Exactly. So wear what you like, guys.
Yeah. That's right.
Peace out.
All right, thanks, buddy.
Bye.